have that pile of money in front of you and have your guts for garters.
Why, what do we have?
About 250 euros there now, Dick.
Yoo-hoo! Santi has come early.
This is Theatre Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. The holidays are coming, time to visit the family, get really depressed, and wrestle with demons. Or so it is in the wonderful play written and directed by our guest. And here to introduce him, you knew I'd say this, Michael, that demon I wrestle with, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
Always spreading such holiday charity. Thank you so much,
darling.
Susan.
Yes.
The Seafarer, a new play by CONOR McPHERSON, is at the booth. Absolutely gripping, compelling, suspenseful play with a brilliant, brilliant cast headed by the great Irish actor Jim Norton. CONOR McPHERSON has written several plays that have been successful here in New York: Shining City, The Weir, and a personal favorite of mine, St. Nicholas, about a theater critic who falls in with a bunch of vampires. And I'm very glad that CONOR McPHERSON is joining us tonight on Theatre Talk. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Susan set up the play a little bit. Christmas time, a lot of guys sitting around drinking. Give us just a quick little CONOR McPHERSON's take on what this play is about and the world that we're entering.
The play is set in a house in Dublin on Christmas Eve, and it's really about a group of men who there's no female presence in their lives really, and if there was, I don't think the play would happen actually, because it's what they get up to is, it's quite wild. They're playing cards. They're going to play poker on Christmas Eve, and one of the characters in the play, his name is Sharky, and he seems to have some difficulties, I think, in his life. He can't really get to grips with life, and he's returned to this house to look after his brother, who's older than him, who has gone blind recently, and he has to look after him, and they don't get on at all. And but one of the people who arrives at the house for this card game is a stranger from Sharky's past who comes to collect on a kind of a debt where he wants to play cards, and for the stakes are very high because he turns out to be the devil and he's come to play cards for Sharky's soul. Now, you don't mind giving that away. That's kind of a surprise or twist in the play that this man is the devil. Kieran Hines, brilliant performance. Yeah, no, for me it's like I don't mind so much because I think that's really what it's about. And I mean, I think the play sort of developed quite organically in a way that, that's what it's about for me. So. Right.
With all your plays I've seen, you're dealing with this metaphysical level, demons or crazy things, and yet they are metaphorically address issues of disturbed personality and of human need and want.
Well, yes, I mean, I think that life can be frightening sometimes, and I suppose I've always been fascinated by the supernatural because I think it always opens a door for us into a way of exploring our own darkest fears, where we feel at our most loneliest and are most alienated. And so for me, people who are haunted or dealing with something which is coming from the unknown is always very powerfully dramatic, I find, and audiences tend to really tune in and really become, intensely absorbed by stories to do with that, I've always found. And then when you then create characters around that who we care about and are trying to deal with this stuff, it can become quite potent. And for me, the theatre is a magical place. Live theatre it has an extraordinary effect. I mean, I love movies, but a movie is always, it's completely the director's vision. It's almost like a dream that someone else dreams for you. The camera shows you what you will see, the music shows you how to feel, and it's a lovely experience. But live theatre, being in the presence of other human beings is always something that really heightens just heightens all our senses. It's very exciting. And then to have live human beings in front of us performing in this space, in this moment, I think the suspense and the tension. And then you add the supernatural element in your plays.
How did that begin, your fascination with the supernatural? Can you trace it back?
I think when I was a little kid, I used to sort of have problems sleeping, and I remember waking up and I'd be oh my God, it was so lonely, in the middle of the night. I mean, I can remember that feeling, and you can maybe get out of your bed and you sort of walk up and down the landing, or, you're not sure quite what to do. You might go and try and get into bed with your parents or something like that. But I think that always really kind of stayed with me, that kind of feeling of, I mean, I love the human experience of night and day. I mean, we feel so different during the day and feel so different at night. And I mean, it's an existential difference. And for me, that's very exciting.
When you were young, were you grappling with any issues of loss or anything that would have brought on, like your characters, this terror?
I think I was probably dealing with the things that people normally deal with, which is feelings of insecurity or loneliness or those things for the reasons all of us experience those things for, where we might feel tensions within our family or within our, within our life somewhere. And when you're a child, you have no idea, really, you have no rational explanation for why you might be feeling unsettled. And I suppose for me, my imagination would always tend to run riot, and so when I was young, I became very, very interested. I used to love reading, books by Stephen King.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your influences were.
Oh yeah, like books like, Stephen King's The Shining, Salem's Lot, anything to do with ghosts, vampires. I always loved George Romero's film like The Dawn of the Dead, and anything to do with zombies I always found absolutely fascinating. And I always loved that feeling of the hair standing up on the back of my neck, and I think that it's a pleasurable feeling, that as well too, because although it's kind of frightening and all that, we like to go there, and then we like to go through it and feel safe again.
Interesting.
Your play takes place, as we said, at Christmas, and it's this family or group of Irish men, and I'm part Irish, but I sat there thinking, what is it with the Irish and the drinking? Is this lost? Is this part of the national character, really?
Yes, I think it seems to be.
And sort of the aimlessness that comes with it in terms of this.
I think that Ireland, I mean, it's historically has been a place, I suppose, which was always colonised by other countries. The Normans were there, and the English were there, and it's only really in the last 70, 80 years that Ireland has been, even the part of it that is independent, has been free. And there's a kind of a shame, I think, that comes with that in a funny way, because you become identified as the victim, which is actually very comfortable. It's very comfortable being the victim.
Because it means you can blame someone else for all your failures.
Exactly. And I think that, but the interesting thing about Ireland is that its culture is ancient. It's very, very old.
And they started Halloween?
Yes, I mean, all those pagan festivals, which then sort of were subsumed into Catholicism. I think that Ireland, it's always had a very strong Catholic, undercurrent, but I think that's because there's always been a very pagan undercurrent, which then shifted very nicely into Catholicism, which is a very superstitious kind of religion, with even something called the Holy Ghost, and it has a goddess in the Virgin Mary. So it has all of that, which really Irish people were able to grip and to embrace hugely. And it's also a very dramatic kind of religion, with its iconography, Jesus on the cross and the blood running down his arms and his mother at the bottom of the cross. And it's like the story is so powerful. And I think there's the very strong oral Celtic tradition in Ireland of storytelling. And so I think that for all those reasons, Catholicism took root. But I think that Catholicism also has a huge element of guilt, because
and fostering helplessness.
I think so, that you depend on the church to forgive you. You are a sinner. Every week you will go to confession and confess to the priest, who will absolve you of your sins.
And then you go back to the pub.
And then you go, but it's that funny. It's a weird. I think it suited the Irish psyche, that whole thing.
So you have actually in this play David Morse, who's so terrific. You're Sharky confronting his helplessness by confronting the devil. Well,
the play could be, if you want to see it that way, that he's confronting the darkness in his own psyche.
Well, could you say, make it a little more specific? This is an alcohol-fueled evening with these guys, and he's trying not to drink. Am I too literal here? Is it too obvious to say the demon he's confronting is the demon of his alcoholism, who's come there to tempt him?
Yes, of course, and but also what underlies the demon of alcoholism? The feelings of inadequacy, the feelings of guilt and helplessness, and the hangover feeling of doom and gloom and fear and paranoia. Those are all deep, deep feelings, and. But I think in Ireland, a little bit like, I suppose, any colonised nation seems to have it. And I know amongst, the Aboriginal people in Australia, there's an alcohol problem. I think there's a certain
American
thing
Indians
here. I think there's a certain
theatre critics and columnists. It's just terrible.
No, they're not victims. But they have certain
They're
power.
the vampires.
Yeah. But so all of that, it's very. I never, I suppose, set out to, when I'm writing. I'm never really thinking about, I'm writing about Ireland or the Irish psyche. I suppose I'm just writing about human beings as I see them and as I've known them as I've grown up. It's a potent symbol in drama and in Irish drama. It's in lots of Irish plays because it's almost a portal into a spiritual world somehow. It's like people looking for transcendence. They're seeking to stop time. They're looking to, in a way, control their existential helplessness by sort of feeling powerful even for a few hours, but then of course the price you pay is that you feel
as the demons and the ghosts of your past, as in a CONOR McPHERSON play.
Any kind of escape like that with a substance is it's illusory, and it's very attractive, and we all, you know, have problems where people can get caught up in that because it's a very powerful illusion, but yes, of course, reality is much stronger than any illusion, and it'll always be there. It's always waiting.
CONOR McPHERSON, thanks a lot for being our guest tonight on Theatre Talk, and do not miss the Seafarer at the Booth Theatre.
Are you still in the wars with Dublin bus about the night you got drunk and you fell down the stairs? And what are you looking for that twinge in your fat? You even blew the chauffeur job down in Lahish. Fancied your man's wife, didn't you?
Who are you again?
Don't make me say it.
I think that you should just leave.
I want your soul, Jerky.
What?
I want your soul.
This season, the well-deported coffee table will have Jersey Boys, story of Frankie, Valli, and the Four Seasons, which was the brainchild of our guests, Broadway's premier photographer, JOAN MARCUS, and David Cote, who is the theater editor of Time Out magazine and a contributor to New York's second-best theater show on television.
Originally, I was going to ask to have my face sort of buzzed out, blurred.
Joan, how did this book come together?
David and I collaborated on the Wicked book. And we worked with Media on that, and then Jersey Boys just kind of followed that.
I think the producers and Melcher Media talked, and they said, we want to memorialize the show in a book, you know, a tie-in book. And I got a call last year, like last fall, and my editor, Holly Rothman, said, do you want to work on Jersey Boys? And I was like, first thing you have to know is I'm not from New Jersey. You know, no, immediately I thought.
No, first thing I want to know, did you like the show?
No, I liked the show, sure. I loved the show. It was a good show, but I really thought they were going to want somebody from New Jersey, like a New Jersey writer personality.
The book is full of great, great photographs, and Joan, you've been photographing Broadway shows for a long time now. Can you give us a sense of how you go about capturing the excitement and energy of a show like Jersey Boys in a still photograph? What are you looking for when you're there watching them perform or rehearse?
Well, first of all, you're recording what is there. So the show pretty much has to be conducive to images. And Des
McAnuff, the director.
Des McAnuff thinks in images. I mean, it's very much staged for, like, stage pictures. So it was pretty easy to photograph it. I mean, it's like, so what you look for is, you've got to combine all the elements that are going on there. Capture kind of the essence of kind of what's there.
Right.
And it helps a lot with what the show looks like. So Jersey Boys was really conducive to that. The other thing that was really great is I had a lot of access to it because, the show had been done in San Diego, in La Jolla, and a lot of the kinks that on a new show might have been worked out, such as like things aren't ready, such as maybe costumes are going to change. So pretty much all of that had been worked out. So I could come in really early, and I had a lot of opportunities to shoot it from a different point of view.
Right.
A lot of times.
Yeah, there are a lot of rehearsal photos.
Yeah, rehearsal.
Yeah.
I mean, they just kind of opened it up to me, and that just kind of gives you a history and a bulk of work that's conducive to making a book.
Well, how do you account for the phenomenal success of this show, David? I mean, having written about it and thought about it, what is this show? What is it about this show that people can't get enough of?
Well, obviously there's the music. It's incredibly catchy, well orchestrated music. I mean, it's the music. The tunes themselves are solid, but what the orchestrators have done with the show, what Ron Melrose, who's the music director of the show, his orchestrations and his work on integrating the music with the action is just phenomenal. I mean, those songs, you listen to the original Four Seasons recordings and they're catchy, but they're pumped up for the show. So there's a sort of a...
Actually, they seem to have a more richness and texture in the show than they do in the original versions of them.
To give the librettists of Jersey Boys their due, and the libretto is included in this book. I've seen some terrific rock and roll songbooks, like, say, the Beach Boys, go really wrong on the Broadway stage, not because of the orchestrations, but because they just couldn't attach it to a wonderful story.
Well, Marshall Brickman and Rick Elise, who are the book writers here, they saw a good story when they heard it from Frankie Valli and Bob Gaudio and Tommy DeVito, the three surviving members of the Four Seasons. You know, there was a story that nobody really had explored, the fact that the group had connections to the mob, or rather knew people who were in the mafia. Oh, God.
Watch out. You may not be from New Jersey, but you're going to end up in New Jersey, my friend.
Yeah, and, of course, the money problems the group had and the group dynamics. I mean, I think male group dynamics are often very exciting to watch, both in terms of bands. I mean, the Beatles, and Monty Python is I think that somehow male groups and all the shifting allegiances and the humor and the power games and the sort of the kaleidoscopic sort of prismatic effect that you have with a male group, seeing all different types of men.
Yeah, all you get with female groups is Dream Girls, where they all get over by men.
Well, that's about homogenization of women, which is kind of
How'd you get access to all these people? You've interviewed almost everybody who had anything to do with the band or the show. How'd you get such great access?
Well, it wasn't hard. I mean, my job on Jersey Boys is kind of to be the unreadable, to be
to be nice.
No wonder I never get these book contracts.
Everybody was thrilled. Everybody was thrilled to talk about the show. There are so few of these books around where they talk about process. I mean, there are tons of shows downtown that I see that I'd love to, dig in and write a book about them. But
no one's going to buy that book about the little...
Unfortunately, no, that's true. There's not much of an audience for it. But so this is a great document for how a show's put together, how it's thought about, how it's conceived. I mean, those nights in La Jolla, Ron Melrose told me about when they would get together and read through like the 5 pages of the script. They would bang out the tunes. They'd find out where do we stop the tune, where do we insert some action. You go choreograph that scene. I mean, there's amazing nights where they basically hammered that show out in La Jolla and created it, and they brought all these threads and wove them together.
So it's not possible, Joan, to do a book like this, let's say on Taboo. I mean, behind the scenes of a big flop.
Well,
photographs by Joan Marcus, text by Michael Riedel.
It is. I mean, it's possible to make a book out of anything, really. I mean, because like once you take the pictures and you can give them to a publisher, an art director, a writer. You write the story, and then you lay out the book. And the layout wouldn't have the depth of the pictures there, but you could do a really nice book on just photographs of a show. Provided there were enough of them and things like that. But it's really a nice opportunity for me because I don't usually get, usually I come in at the end.
Right.
And, which is always a hard time to come in because it's like everybody, I come in and it's like, oh my God, we've got to be ready, you know. But it's really nice to see the process of it, to kind of get to know the actors, get to know the director, they get to know you, they trust you. Then you become more a fly on the wall and you can just go there. They know that, something that's not ready isn't going to appear in print anywhere. You can just trash it. But for me, it's a great experience because the more you photograph something, you kind of see things that, like, if you go in one time, you can't get. Like, sometimes two things are happening, or you want to see it from a different point of view, or you want to do something like that. And usually you don't have the opportunity to do that.
The key, I think, though, is to be a fly on the wall. I mean, you find initially when you're there with your camera that people are sort of posing for the camera, and you kind of wait for them to no longer know that or remember that you're there, and then you can get the candid moments?
No, because it's like a run-through, so it's like there's the wall, so they're doing their thing, and whether it's full out or it's marking, that varies from show to show. So you're kind of never a fly on the wall because you're sitting right in the orchestra, standing up and making noise, and so people kind of know you're there. But if you get to know everybody, the presence of you coming, I think when the photographer comes in, it means we're going to have a performance tomorrow, usually. And,
we're ready to go.
And that, is hard, because it's like all this work that everyone's doing, all of a sudden everybody kind of starts to see what's wrong rather than kind of what's right because this is going to record the show. And so what's nice is if you have more than one opportunity to come in and if you shoot the show during the show from the wings or, you know, kind of whatever.
To really get that sense of
to
the
get
excitement of the live
of the
Broadway
thing.
experience.
You don't get that opportunity very often because of budgets, you know, because of, you know, access, because of, you know, for various reasons, you never do. And Jersey Boys was one experience where, you know, I really had an opportunity to kind of be there from the beginning in New York, not at La Jolla, and kind of follow it through, you know, through production, through dress rehearsals, through setup call, through performance, and, you know, take pictures almost as many times as I wanted to do it.
But I have to say, you make every show you shoot look good.
Thank you.
You get these iconic-ish images, and I wonder, do you shoot just lots and lots and lots, and then you can go back and pick?
You get a lot of garbage. I mean, you know, because you know, basically you're recording what's there, and you get a lot of bad pictures, and then hopefully, I mean, you kind of capture, you know, something that is going to be
the essence of the show.
Is the essence of the show, and you know, a lot of it is kind of going back time, you know, another time, because like you think, wow, you know, that was really great, but if I kind of next time I do it, maybe I should have photographed it this way because this person could be in front and that, you know, or, you know, maybe that same kind of picture kind of in the second act, the lighting's a little bit more evocative, or, you know, because when I usually photograph it, you know, things aren't necessarily, like they're still adjusting the lights. So like I'll photograph something and then, you know, you come back at the end to see the show, you know, like in previews or, you know, end of previews. And, you know, it's just a little shining jewel. But, you know, when you were there, they were just still kind of you know, it's like the first time they're looking at something, you know, and then, you know, wow, you know, those costumes really don't work so well.
As a writer, I kind of envy your chance to be there, you know, as it's just dating. I sort of I obviously came in at the end. I don't go to opening nights. I didn't even review it. I saw it like months after it opened. But you know, it's great to go to a show. I saw it like 5 or 6 times, so it's great to go to see the show and to just like, okay, I'm going to focus this time just on costumes. So just look at the costumes. I'm going to focus on the props or the way they double the characters or triple the characters. Because it's as a critic, you just go in there at the very tail end of the process. And you just see what they want you to see, and you're there for one night, and you write your opinion about it. And in a sense, the critic has sort of a pact of ignorance with their readers and with the creative types. We're going to go in there, and maybe the press rep will give us some information about the set or the concept behind this. I mean, if it's from England, they might give you a whole pack of stuff, you know, so you can research that Tom.
Well, you get the script.
Yeah.
You get the script, but you know, when I've reviewed movies for Time Out New York, and they give you enough paper to choke a bull, you know, just sort of on the making of, interviews with. Now, I don't want to be handed what to write, of course, but I'm an information junkie. I want to know as much about this project as you can give me, so I can base my opinion on that. Whereas critics go in there, and with this imperfect knowledge, they go see a show, and they just sort of spit out what they think about it. Now, that's the way we do things. I don't want to be immersed in the production for a week before I write my review. That'd be kind of ridiculous. Yeah. But this wall between, you know, what the critic does and between the critic and the work is, it can be very thick. I mean, there are critics from the Times who don't even talk to fellow critics. They're like in a little bubble.
That's just because they're snobby. That's all. It's nothing to do with ethics. It's just because they're just rude, uncivil.
You've managed to overcome that obstacle in this book, where you've been able to go full on depth.
Yeah.
No, I mean that you've been able to spend lots of time with Jersey.
We got to wrap up. Let me ask you quickly: what's the musical this season that's going to be the subject of your next book?
Well,
mine's Little Mermaid. And that I've been...
I can write the text of that, my dear.
But you know what? See, what's been wonderful about that is, you know, again, I don't get to do this very often, but, you know, I've been with The Little Mermaid since the very beginning, and that has been a wonderful process. What the outcome of anything is, you never know. Right. I mean, you really don't. But being part of that process is a very positive, fun thing.
And they should have hired you to redo the costumes.
Well,
and you were there. You're
going
to do the text of Little Mermaid?
I would. I have no idea. I haven't seen the show, but I would love to do one on Spring Awakening. I'd love to put a book together. Great. Yep. Could do historical research, literary stuff. It'd be great.
That'll sell almost as well as the Jersey Boys story, Frankie, Valli, and the Four Seasons. JOAN Marcus, David Cote. Thank you. David, you have to come back and dissect some shows for us.
And some critics.
Awesome critics. Okay.
God, I had an awful dream the other night.
Yeah, I dreamt that I could see.
I dreamt that I woke up and I could see, and that being blind had been a dream. Then I dreamt the sun was shining in through the window there, and there, just sitting on the windowsill, was a blue bottle, or a horsefly, just looking at me. Did you ever notice about those things? The whole head is nearly their eyes. Two big black footballs on the whole two sides of their head, and I was just staring at him, and he was just staring at me, as much as you can tell, if he's looking at you at all. What does he think of me, I was wondering, as we were kind of communing